I am so excited to share that you can now watch all of my upcoming podcasts on my brand new YouTube channel for the What Now podcast. So many of you have asked for more video content, and now you can watch these powerful conversations face to face. Every story, every testimony, every moment of faith and resilience, you'll now find it all on YouTube. So I'll be posting more of my episodes there, along with new short clips and deeper insights to help strengthen your faith and remind you that you are never alone on this journey. I invite you to subscribe on my YouTube channel at Podcast What Now. That's at Podcast What Now, so you never miss an episode.
This is the What Now podcast.
In this episode of the What Now podcast, I sit down with Christian Williams and Travis Lish, the voices behind the Holy Rebellion, to talk about why they felt compelled to step into the apologetic space amid increasing confusion and negativity surrounding the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Christian and Travis share how misinformation often spreads when history, doctrine, and culture are taken out of context, and how the Holy Rebellion intentionally responds with factual content, correct context, and peaceful delivery. Rather than fueling contention, their approach centers on clarity, credibility, and Christlike calm in a polarized online world. We discuss how each of us can use our voices in positive, faith-filled ways to offset negative narratives, defend truth with compassion, and help create peace while staying anchored in the gospel of Jesus Christ.
This is the What Now podcast.
Today, I'm joined by Christian Williams and Travis Lish, who are the hosts of the Holy Rebellion podcast. Welcome.
Hey, Mary Alice. Good to see you again. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us. We're glad to be here.
I'm so happy to have you guys on here today. I mean, you're known for taking on controversial topics with clarity and factual depth. I mean, what led you to create the Holy Rebellion? How did you come up with that powerful name?
Yeah, I would. The interesting thing about the name, the Holy Rebellion, is we started in a different place. So the origin of the name Holy Rebellion is we wanted to rebel against anything that was worldly. We wanted to rebel against all of the gods of this world. And so our podcast actually originated as one where we were interviewing non-denominational Christians and Catholics and Lutherans and you name it. And we were having them onto the show, and we were just talking about the rewards and the joy that comes from putting Jesus first in your life. And so we were just rebelling against the gods of this world. And then as we were in that journey, we quickly took note of how misrepresented the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is online. And that didn't sit very well with us. And so we did something that we sort of swore off. We sort of originally swore off the idea that we would ever get into apologetics. And we dove headfirst into that world. And so the Holy Rebellion has evolved slightly. And I would say that at this point, the rebellion continues, but we rebel against misinformation. We rebel against contention. We rebel against hatred. And we try to be peacemakers in all that we do as we tackle different misrepresentations.
I love that.
Yeah, just to add to that, I think that it's kind of counterculture to follow Jesus these days. It's a bit punk rock. And so we leaned heavy into that. And so there's nobody more punk rock than the rebellion. Because we're leading a rebellion to Jesus.
I know. I was interviewed by you all a few weeks ago, and I told someone I was being interviewed by the Holy Rebellion. They're like, what? What does that mean? Oh my gosh, are you going rogue? I'm like, no, it's just the counter to that.
Well, now it's a requirement to shave your head if you come on the show. So next time it'll be a little bit even more punk rock.
It was a bait and switch. Now we're going to pull you into the deep end, Mary
I
Alice.
love how you connect that to punk rock. Hilarious.
I just like being punk rock. There's something about it. I don't know. I actually had one experience on the tail end of this. As we started doing this and meeting with people and learned that nobody cares. Nobody just cared to listen to it. We really enjoyed it, but nobody cares. And I was in the temple, and Travis and I kind of independently came to the same conclusion that we need to get into apologetics at different times. But I was in the temple, and I was just trying to figure out, like, what can we do to make this move forward and be something substantial that will be helpful to people? And I opened the Book of Mormon, and I read the story of Ammon, and it's when he gathers and defends the flocks of the king. And when I read that, it just hit me. It's like, that's it. That's what you got to do. You got to go out and you got to gather and defend the flocks of the king. And then we just saw that our faith is so demonized and attacked online that somebody's got to stand up and defend it and try and gather people in. And so that's kind of, from my part, that's where I knew this is the direction we needed to go.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, it's interesting because your content often cuts through confusion by presenting full context. I mean, how do you decide which topics, sometimes very delicate ones, to address next?
I have a very easy filter. For me, I just go, I search Mormon, and the highest viewed videos that make me feel
cringe.
Yeah, it's just like the worst misrepresentations that the most people are viewing. That's what I want to get in front of, because those are the same videos that my little brothers and my kids will see, and our sons and daughters are going to see. They're going to see those videos and think, oh, do we actually believe that? Is that a fair representation of my faith? And it's not. And so when they see that, I want us side by side with them so that they can see the faithful response.
Yeah. That's fair.
And to your question, Mary Alice, this idea of providing full context, the norm online, and you see this everywhere. This isn't just in the faith space, right? But you see it in the political space, the faith space, and every other topic that could possibly have countering opinions, is that the story is presented from one angle, and it's presented with selective facts. And then those facts are presented as if they are the only facts. And then it's pushed and presented as truth. And so all we tried to do is demonstrate that there are additional facts that round out the story, to help people see that you don't have to be a fool to choose faith. That there is reason, there is logic, there is a substantial place to stand on, that any person, as far educated as you can go, can choose Jesus Christ, can choose faith, can opt into choosing to believe that God really does speak to his children on earth. And so that's what we try to do, is just provide the full picture when the videos we are responding to typically only just cover one side of that.
That's so true. And I like what you're doing recently on your Instagram. You're taking kind of like a really intense clip that's so counter to our beliefs, and then breaking it down and giving the factual content. I mean, you're directly addressing it.
That's the hope. We try. We don't always do a great job, but I think we do well enough that to provide some of that context, to provide that contrast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I think it's powerful to hear what they're saying, the opposition is saying, and how you're countering that in a really respectful, factual way. You know, because a lot of people don't understand. They just take everything online as face value, and it's not accurate most of the time. Yeah.
And I would say that most members of the church, and I would honestly include myself in this category, I have a believing heart. And I think so many members of the church do. And so when incorrect or half-truth type information gets put in front of them, my instinctual response is to turn it off, look away, run away, because it puts a strange feeling inside of me, and I just would rather not, right? Mm-hmm. And part of our hope is to help members of the church who are like me, to realize that there's nothing to be afraid of, that the Church of Jesus Christ has an incredibly good position in a logical argument. Whether we're talking theology or history, there's good ground to stand on. And we just want to demonstrate that there's nothing to run away from. We have a good spot.
Yeah. I think that's my tendency too, is to not even face it, to just turn it off. Because I don't want it to alter my beliefs. I don't want it to have that uneasy feeling. I love the faith. I love it. It makes me happy. You know, I don't have a reason to ever search anywhere else for anything. And so when some of those things come up, because I have a faith-based podcast, so on my Instagram, sometimes things like that will come into my feed. I'm like, oh my gosh, is that true? That's crazy. You know, and so it's so shock value, right? The counterculture is so shock value. And I love that you address that head on. You know, recently you tackled topics like Heavenly Mother and other doctrinal misunderstandings with such clarity. I mean, what is your process for breaking down complex or emotionally charged issues in a way people can actually understand?
Some people think that their time in the church prepares them to interact with claims that are against our faith, and it just doesn't. And it's because the church is not an apologetics organization. It doesn't spend time preparing you or to defend the faith. It just gives you the ordinances and the covenants and teaches you how to follow Jesus and his gospel. And so when you interact with counterclaims to our faith, you also need to interact with the apologetics to our faith, which is not found within the church material because they just don't do that. They're a salvific organization. And so spend at least as much time in this space with the apologetics as you do with the critiques of the church. And so good places to do that. We love David Snell. For a long time, he was on Saints Unscripted, and he made, 100 or a couple hundred videos, very short, just going over very specific issues in church history or with theology. They're excellent. Fair Latter-day Saint does a really good job. Mormon R does a really good job.
Yeah, those are good resources because I think people don't really know where to go.
Yeah. And just two quick thoughts from me. It's interesting to remember and to realize that the same arguments that are being presented via TikTok and Instagram now are the exact same ones that were being presented 100 years ago. The arguments have been had over and over and over again. Any question or any topic that gets brought up in something like this is going to be found on one of those sources that Christian talked about. And some of the answers will be the same as they were in 1845, right? Like they're just there. And we've been responding to the critiques since the beginning. And that's something that to me is it's helpful to remember. That we're fighting the same fight. The critics look at it from one perspective. We look at it from a different one. But remember, our only goal is to provide the space wherewith someone can choose faith. We don't have to prove that we're right in apologetics. We just provide the space where someone of logic and reason might choose faith.
Mm-hmm. Well, much of your work highlights how partial truths get mixed with misinformation online. I mean, what patterns do you see in how anti-Mormon narratives are created?
I actually spent a lot of time thinking about this recently because we've been doing this for about a year, and you start to see very quickly that, as Travis mentioned, it's the same arguments being recycled over and over and over again. So a lot of our response is, it's actually the same response just being recycled because the same critiques keep coming up. And so I really see there's two areas. One is church history and issues with church history that coming forth of the Book of Mormon, something in Joseph's life, polygamy, blacks in the priesthood, something Brigham said. He said a lot of things that were, a bit iffy. Joseph Fielding Smith was a bit of a wild man. He said a few things that are a bit iffy. And so like there's this area of church history where people struggle with, and I get it. And there's two lenses to which to view that, or several lenses, right? One is a faithful and one is a critical, and you should really use both. But in the end of the day, they're fallible men. And then the second area where we get attacked a lot, and this one I haven't really heard clearly articulated, and I'm hoping to do a good job because I've spent so much time thinking about this. There is if we think of our doctrine, our theology as like a mosaic, it's this picture, it's a painting. There's a very clear portion of this painting. And I'll call everything within that, it's like a revelation, the line of revelation. Everything outside of that gets a little bit lower resolution and a bit blurry, a little bit less colorful. And so what we have from Adam to Oaks is the prophetic witness. It's the same things they've taught over and over and over again, and unanimously. Mm-hmm. It's like the 12, the first presidency. They've all taught the same thing, and they're all teaching the same thing every single conference. It's just different ways of teaching it. And it's basically the gospel of Jesus Christ and the plan of salvation. It's that God lived, suffered for our sins. He died, was resurrected. And then through prophets, who he calls, he gives them priesthood authority to which we can receive the gifts that Jesus offers through making and keeping covenants. And that's really it. Like that's the picture. And and then there's the plan of salvation and 3 degrees of glory. And all of that is a very clear picture. And then what happens is we ourselves as members, sometimes the leaders, sometimes the prophets, they go past the line of revelation into this blurry area. And they start speculating or saying, we believe this or this is doctrine, but it's outside of that clear line of revelation. And anytime they do that, that's where we get attacked. Those are like the exact spaces where they say, but you guys believe this. And it's like, you actually don't. We don't believe that. We believe this. Outside of that, you can believe all sorts of things. Because we're not so dogmatic that we have to tell you everything you have to believe. There are a core set of things you have to believe. And outside of that, it's like, really, you can believe all sorts of things. Doesn't make it true, doesn't make it our theology. But that's what I find is, these are the things we believe. Everything outside of that, we don't necessarily believe, and you don't have to believe, but you can believe. But that's where we often get attacked, almost always, and misrepresented.
That's a good distinction.
Yeah, and I think that it's an interesting thing because it's not just against members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints that there's misrepresentations. I mean, Catholics and Protestants have also been fighting this fight for centuries, right? And it's not difficult to look on YouTube and see how they misrepresent one another as well, or how atheists will misrepresent Christians and vice versa. And I think that one of the things that's so helpful for me as I think this through is to recognize that every one of these individuals sees themselves as the protagonist. Everyone sees themselves as the hero of their own story. People genuinely believe, right? The Protestants who are making critical videos about us, most of them are actually trying to save our soul, which is interesting. And they were taught that the way to go about saving our soul is to pick apart our faith. Literally in classes that they go to, instruct them how to do this. And that's been helpful for me to recognize, because these people aren't bad people. What they're trying to do is fight against what they perceive as being evil. And they've been taught that we're evil, which is pretty wild. And so what they'll do is they'll take these fringe ideas that Christian talked about, and they'll zoom in on that and say, see, only someone who is evil or dumb would believe such a thing. Therefore, Mormons are evil or dumb. And it happens in almost every video that you watch. People will take a topic, a quote, like one singular quote out of the last 200 years, and spin it as if it were the very central thing that we identify as. And just as a general rule, never the right way to identify a different group of people. There's a much more honest way to go about that.
Well, when church members encounter something online that feels confusing, disorienting, or spiritually unsettling, what's a productive first step for them to take? Because I think it's kind of paralyzing for them. They come across this stuff and they're like, what the heck? I don't know what to even do with this.
Yeah, I'll jump in. We actually chatted with Casey Griffiths just a couple of weeks ago and asked him almost this exact same question. And I'm going to parrot his response a little bit because I just loved it. And he said, the first thing that you should do is take a deep breath and slow down. I think first is recognizing what we just talked about is everybody is crafting a narrative based off of selective data points. And so recognize first that they're crafting and delivering a narrative. It's not necessarily a true one, and it's definitely not one that's considering all of the facts. So keep that in mind. And then two, with that in mind, it's taking a step back and actually asking the question, okay, was that a thing that was actually said? If so, what's the context? In what area was it happening inside of the church? In what time frame? And really trying to understand the full picture of what was happening. And so often, Mary Alice, what we find is that if it was said in a conference talk in 1876 that, oh, whoops, you know what? If you would have just read 2 paragraphs down, it actually would have clarified that for you. Like so frequently, if you just slow down and go back to the original source within the context, something that feels scary or confusing just no longer is.
That's really true. I mean, context is important. I mean, you blend historical education with modern clarity in such a relatable way. Why is understanding church history with full context, like you're saying, so essential for today's members?
I think for that exact reason is that it gets proof texted, or people will cherry pick bits and pieces of this. I'm trying to think of a good example. There's like I can't remember which conference talk it is, but it's like the conference talk where, well, a good example of this is actually 2 Nephi 25, where you are saved by grace after all you can do. So if you read just that last line from that verse, it makes it look as if the members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints believe that their works will save them. And so that's how it's presented. If you put that into context, even with like the surrounding 10 verses, it's clearly not the case. Or that chapter, it's clearly not the case. In fact, it says it's not. Or the book of 2 Nephi or the Book of Mormon. Like if you just zoom out a little bit, you get a better understanding. And it's almost always the exact same with any conference talk. So that being said, there are genuine critiques and genuine issues with things people have said, and there are genuine issues with church history. And that's just part of us being human. And so we don't mean to excuse those or say that they're not issues, because some of them are. They're legitimate issues that people struggle with, and I get it. But most of them are not. Almost all of them are not. You just need to do a little bit more research on it.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's interesting because Joseph Smith, he's often the target of criticism. What would you say to someone who is unsure, they're conflicted, or they're confused about Joseph Smith's role and his character?
Yeah, a couple of thoughts, Christian. I'll let you take this one home. But when thinking and talking of Joseph Smith, I think that there's two mistakes that could be made. One would be to describe him as a flawless servant of God, because nobody's flawless. And the other mistake would be to call him a scoundrel or a fool, right? Who could do no right. That's how, just like everything, right? In 2025, we want to paint people as black or white. Nobody is. Nobody was. History isn't some sort of like children's book that just goes cleanly and smoothly without any problems. History was real. There were real people encountering really difficult situations. Joseph Smith even described himself as a rough stone rolling, I think he at times was surprised that he was the one called to do such a work. So to paint him on either end of the spectrum is just not the right way to approach it. And so as we view the life of Joseph Smith, I would say pick good books and go and read them. Read Rough Stone Rolling. I'm reading another biography on him right now. But read the volumes that the church is putting out, Saints. Read the Joseph Smith papers that the church is putting so many resources into producing these documents. There is more documentation and journals and evidence of just the teachings in the life of Joseph Smith than perhaps any other religious leader ever. We have the resources there. We can go and we can read them. We can look into them. And so first, do the research, like jump into it, learn it for yourself. And then the second thing, and I think this is the most important, and I'll probably repeat this a few times in our conversation today. At the end of the day, understanding and coming to a knowledge of Joseph Smith and his role as a prophet and the prophet of the restoration, just as it is coming to comprehend that God has sent his son to save us and die for us, it has to come through the Spirit. Right. And so, yes, do your research. Yes, jump into history. Yes, read the books. But at the end of the day, God gave us a witness of Joseph Smith's calling, and that is the Book of Mormon. And so read the Book of Mormon, study it, see what it does and see how it changes your life, see how it changes your heart, see how it connects you back to Jesus Christ. Watch how it fulfills the promises made within Scripture, telling you that if you ask, you'll receive, telling you that if you study these things, you'll feel different in your life. You'll receive more charity and Christ-like love in your heart. And you will begin to experience that. And I'm going to butcher something that Elder Holland said, but what you'll come to recognize and feel is that no evil man could have written such a book, and no good man would have unless they were called of God to do so. Right. And so first, do your research. Second, turn to the evidence that God gave us, which is the Book of Mormon. And third, seek a witness from God.
That's powerful. It made me think of, they've had all these reels going on now that Elder Holland has passed away. And one of them talks about when they're in Carthage jail and they're about to be killed and they're reading out of the Book of Mormon. I mean, if they had made it all up and it was a bunch of baloney, they wouldn't be doing that when they're about to face death. Right? I mean, that they would turn to this book for comfort and solace during one of the hardest times of their life. It's just powerful. I mean, my whole testimony is built on the Book of Mormon. I think there's no way Joseph Smith wrote that book. There's no way. He was known as an unlearned man, and that he could write it in the speed and that he read it. I mean, how many days did it take him to write that?
Roughly 65. Yeah.
Yeah, 65 days to write a book of scripture like that, which has been proven historically with Hebrew connections and all these different connections and chiasmus and writing styles. There's no way he would know that, So for me, I feel like my whole testimony is hinged on the Book of Mormon. I just feel like if that's true, then prophets are true. Then divine revelation is true. Then this is the restored gospel of Jesus Christ. It's powerful if you look at it through that lens.
I agree. And there's been some research. It's called stylometry. Have you heard of that?
No.
it's like studying the writing style of an individual. And so when you study the writing style in the Book of Mormon, you get about 20 different authors, and not one of them matches any stylometry of Joseph Smith, which is fascinating. So even if Joseph was some kind of genius, he did something that has never been duplicated, or like it's a one-off event that's never happened in the history of humanity. That this person, even if he was a religious genius, produced this book under the circumstances he did. So I had an experience, and so I believe that Joseph was a prophet of God. And when I was 18, about ready to go on a mission, my dad he sat me down and he's like, "Hey, look, if you go on a mission, you're going to hell. And here's why." And he brought out like this binder, and this was his evidence against the prophet Joseph Smith. And he just systematically went through it, all these issues he had with the prophet and why he couldn't have been who he said he was. And I actually remember I had like this, it was kind of this out of body experience where I felt like I was upside down in darkness, just falling, because like, if that was true, so what am I doing with my life? Everything is turned upside down.
Yeah.
And I just remember praying like, Heavenly Father, help me through this. And there was, I don't want to say a vision, but in this out of body experience I had, there was this ray of light, and I felt this voice that said, "I told you it was true. What else do you need?"
Wow.
I was like, oh, that was it. And then I was right side up, sitting back across from my dad, and I just had this glow in my chest. And there are things I don't know the answer to, but what greater witness can I have than that from God?
Yeah.
And like, that's really it for me. I have had experiences with deity that are outside of my normal human emotions that I don't experience anywhere ever. But when I follow Jesus Christ and the counsel of his prophets, I experience it frequently. And I have these interactions with the God of the universe. And for me, that's it. I really don't need anything else. Although it's helpful. I wouldn't be mad if we found Zarahemla, or something like that. But I'm okay without it.
That is such a powerful story about your dad. Are you a convert to the church then?
No, but I did have a very rebellious stage in middle school, and Jesus saved me. I remember I actually went, like, my parents got a divorce when we were young. I was like 11 or 12, and then we moved to Wyoming. So I was just in this new place, and I was just lost, and I wanted somebody to teach me what to do and how to be a man. And I had an older brother who was doing drugs, so I started following him. It's like, well, I'll just do whatever my brother's doing. And it led me really poor places. And after doing that for like 8-9 months, I just hated myself. And anytime I was alone, it's like, this sucks. Life is not good. And my mom dragged me to church one Sunday, and I remember seeing Will Barker, a deacon at the time, passing the sacrament, and he just like had this glow about him. Oh. And in my heart, I just thought, I just want that. I just want to not hate myself and to have that kind of light. And so I repented, and I started following Jesus. And the more I've done that, the better my life has gotten.
Wow. That is powerful. I mean, I feel like whenever I'm exposed to dark things, or I feel like I'm in a dark place, and I go and read the Book of Mormon, it clears. There's something about the Book of Mormon that is so, it just infuses your life with light. I mean, I don't know how else to explain it. It's kind of like when I go to something that's doctrinally true, like a conference talk that really moves me. If I've ever been in a kind of a place where I feel like darkness is coming in, then I kind of counteract it with doctrine. It's interesting how that
Casey
works.
actually was telling us, Travis and I, in our conversation, that he had a buddy whose job it was to research all the anti-Mormon material. So that's what he did for his day job every single day. And Casey was talking about him, with it about him, and asked him, like, how do you do that? And he said, well, I just read 30 minutes of the Book of Mormon every day, and kind of keeps me level.
It's the antidote.
Yeah, it's the antidote to the poison.
Offset the darkness.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, one of the concerns I frequently hear about patriarchy and priesthood structure, things people struggle with. How do you respond to someone who feels uneasy about leadership dynamics or authority in the church?
Yeah, nothing better than two men to answer this question, huh?
Yeah, I know. We need a woman in here. Where's Lauren Yarrow?
I can just share my experience. I serve in the Stake Young Men's presidency right now. And so we do stake activities, and we work with the Stake Youth Council, and I work really closely with the Stake Young Women's organization. We have monthly meetings together, and I will just say this, that what I witness in my worship, right? Like there's a narrative that gets spun about the church and the way that it gets treat women. But what I witness is that every month in a stake council meeting, which includes the stake presidency and the high council, it includes a young women's president, a primary president, and a relief society president. I see the opinions and the ideas and the insights and revelation of women getting taken very seriously. I see them getting invited to participate and asked to participate so that their voices can be included when the stake presidency is trying to come up with conclusions. I see that in my meetings with the Stake Young Women's presidency, they make me way better in my role with the Stake Young Men. They teach me, they inform me, they help me. Their organization is better than mine, than I more naturally am. And so they elevate our entire stake youth program. And so my experience, both in my callings as well as with my incredible wife, who has powerful opportunities to serve and to testify and to teach within the organization of the church, that I just think opportunity is everywhere. And I do think that I would say maybe over the last decade or so, there have been some small policy changes that have helped to make that possible. Mm-hmm. But what I experience now is a church who not just invites, but needs the voices and the revelation that women are receiving.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like President Nelson was really good at endorsing that too. You know, he really wanted to hear the voice of women. He would say in his conference talks, a couple of them, that, you know, we need you. We need your voices. We need your influence. We need your faithfulness. We're going to have more people coming into the church in the latter days because of the influence of women, righteous women who are unique in good ways.
I think that Lauren Yarrow and Maddie Packer are excellent examples of that online.
Yeah. We're seeing that. We're seeing that wave of faithful influencers and scholars and creators. They're rising up to defend the church and clarify this doctrine. Why do you think this movement is growing so rapidly right now?
That's a good question. I was reading in Moses yesterday, Moses 7, and he's talking to Enoch, and he says that in the last days, truth and righteousness, I will cause truth and righteousness to sweep the earth as a flood, to bring in mine elect to Zion. I just think, like, that's it. This is how it's done. We send out 80,000 missionaries, our sons and daughters, to the world to baptize, to help people receive ordinances. But when they get online right now and search for us, they see our detractors, because we've abdicated the internet to our detractors. And so we're taking it back, and we're beginning to flood the earth with truth and righteousness. And it's kind of this roots up calling that I think people are starting to feel.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel so excited when you ask questions like this, because I think the answer is simple. I think it's because it's time. It's time for ancient prophecy to be fulfilled. We're living in it right now. Like the marvelous work and a wonder that was prophesied ages ago, the stone that was to be cut out of the mountain without hands and roll forth, the standard of truth that was to be erected. And like all of these things we're prophesying and talking about right now. And Christian, I hear it from people all the time who say that they're feeling it and they want to contribute their voice to the cause. Mm-hmm. And our thought is that very soon we will be able to flood the earth with the restored gospel of Jesus Christ to every nation, kindred, and tongue, to penetrate every continent and to go to every clime in ways that would have felt impossible just a few years ago. Mm-hmm. It's happening. Yeah. The prophesied flooding of the earth is happening right now. And I think that millennials, Gen Alpha, Gen Z, and anyone and everyone who's alive right now is feeling that. It's like the call of our time to gather Israel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I felt that getting into this space as an older person. I'm 55 years old. I'm probably the oldest woman who's doing this right now. But I've interviewed Lauren Yarrow and some of these other young influencers, and they've all said they felt a calling to do this. And it's a hard space to be in because you get backlash and you do get hate. And I think when you're younger, I can take it probably a little bit better. I'm older and had more life experience and harder things happen, but they're young. And when we were at this meetup with these female influencers that Austin Felter had put together, the girls were saying, it's getting hard. It's getting hard to fight against kind of the hate that we're getting. And, but yet when they do it, they're empowered, right? I feel like you're given strength beyond your own because this is the Lord's mission for us. They're called and they're answering the call, which takes a lot of courage.
Hallelujah. Yeah, I remember the first time it's like the first 20 times we posted a video and a response video, I would be in fight or flight. I had enormous amounts of anxiety. It's scary. Yeah. And then you go read the comments, you're like, shoot, this is rough.
Yeah.
But it is scary and it is difficult, but we are equipped to do scary, difficult things. And I mean, the King of Kings and Prince of, like, we've got the best possible example who went to the scariest possible places and conquered them.
Right.
And we just follow him.
I love that. Well, you've begun gathering other influencers into this mission. I mean, what is your vision for the Holy Rebellion moving forward? And how do you hope to strengthen kind of this broader community of faithful voices?
You got it. Go ahead.
Yeah, our hope for ourselves, and Mary Alice, we are so far from being perfect at this. I lost sleep just last night over my natural man. But our whole goal is to be peacemakers online. We feel that if we don't have peace in our hearts, then how can we share it with the world? And if you can't share peace with the world, then you're not standing with the Prince of Peace. And so our whole goal, our whole vision, our whole aim is that we can respond to criticisms, correct misinformation, and spread the gospel of Jesus Christ in a manner of peace, because it's the way that the message deserves to be shared. Yeah. And our hope is to learn to be able to do that well enough ourselves so that we can help everyone to do the same, whether they're content creators, whether they are just commenting in the comment section. We think the only way for us to flood the earth with the gospel is to do so with peace. And so we want to help everyone adopt that mindset and let's spread this gospel in the way that it deserves to be spread.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that we used to use this term a lot, every member a missionary. Yeah. But I actually think that's never been more true than it is today, because literally everybody can be engaged in a way that reaches thousands, if not more, of people. And all you have to do is get online and heart something that's good. And when you do that, that tells the algorithm to send it to somebody else, or you share it to somebody, or you comment. And one of the issues we see is this can be a pro and a con. You can be a missionary with a baseball bat and you're beating people over the head with the truth, or you can be a missionary who's inviting people to come to church. And so you are a content creator if you are commenting in a comment section, because that is something that can potentially be seen by millions of people and may live forever. And what we want to do is provide the contrast. When God began the creation, he separated the light from the darkness, and that's the first act of creation. And when people see our content, I would say our people's content online, I want them to see the contrast between light and darkness, so that they know which direction they want to go. And the reason I think that peacemaking is so important beyond that is that is what's going to interest other people in our faith. And we can be very logically sound, and we can just beat people over the head with our theology, and it can sound good and look good. But I think it's ultimately what people feel about what we're saying that's going to make an impact. And so we need to present that in a way that Jesus would have us do. And I think that's peacemaking. That's how we do it. And so the goal, Travis and I talk about this all the time. Here's the goal. Here's what we want to do. When somebody searches Mormon on TikTok, the first 20 videos are derogatory. They're detractors of our faith. On Instagram, it's maybe even worse. We want to change that narrative by getting 1 billion views a month collectively from our content creators, from LDS content creators. Because if we can do that, then when people search us, they can learn about us from us and not from those who would pull people away from the faith. And that's how we spread the gospel. We wrap that in peacemaking. That's what people need. That's how they're going to feel it.
Well, what you're saying makes sense. I mean, Christ is the ultimate peacemaker, right? He didn't rant. He didn't fight against people who attacked him. He just acted in peace, right? And that's what you're doing. Every response you have to this negative content that I see on your platforms is out of a peaceful, respectful, accurate lens. It's such a great way to respond. I mean, that's how the church responds to things.
Yeah.
You know?
Trying so hard to do. And sometimes it is as hard as it looks sometimes. The interesting thing that I would say to hearkening back to this thought of I'm a flight type person, right? Like I see something controversial and it's easier for me just to step back. For other people, the opposite is true. It's easier to like grab a club and go and bludgeon people. Our invitation for everybody is, when you feel the fight or flight sensation, our opportunity isn't to run from the battle. The battle is waging right now. It's live. It's real. But our invitation also isn't to grab a sword and go start hacking at people. The invitation is to charge into the battle wielding an olive branch. And the only person that can teach us how to do that correctly, as Christian said, is Jesus Christ. Like he is the Prince of Peace. He is the example of how to do that. On February 7th, here's a shameless plug. On February 7th, we are going to host a Peacemaker Summit at the Red Show Barn in Lehigh, Thanksgiving Point. And we're just exploring this topic, how to wield an olive branch when everything inside of you tells you to either run from the battle or to use the sword, use an olive branch. And we're gathering some amazing people. We've talked about a few of them already today. Maddie Packer, Lauren Yarrow, David Snell, Jasmine Rapley, who are going to come and share their experiences of how they're doing that online as well. But we just want to sort of get the ball rolling so we can all be on the same page of what weapon ought we to wield when we step into the battle.
I love that. Well, where else can people find your information? What is your Instagram handle, YouTube? Let us know.
I believe it's all just the Holy Rebellion. So YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, we're even on X. I mean, nobody's on X that I know, but we're there as well.
X?
Twitter.
Oh, Twitter.
Yeah, formally Twitter. I should have put that in parentheses as I said it. Yeah, we're on there. And the link to that summit is in the bio in Instagram. And this is important because we can't do it alone. Mary Alice, you've done a wonderful amount of good. But if there were 10 of you, we just have such a broader impact. And I also think that every person brings there's a you-sized hole in the battle somewhere that you can only feel. You have a flavor of the gospel that somebody out there needs to hear, something unique about your experience that nobody else can bring. We need your voices. And that doesn't mean you need to create content, although some of you should. Some of you listening might feel that pull and that kind of tug on your heart. That's what we felt. When you feel that, do it. You're going to suck at it and it's okay. We did too, and we still do, but we're slowly getting better. But you could also just engage online, just being there, just showing up. If the members of our church decided that we would all serve online missions, and all that means is I'm going to get online to the faithful content creators. I'm going to like and I'm going to share that with some people I know, and I'm going to leave a comment. You don't have to go to war in the comment section. It can just be something simple. All of that helps spread the gospel to other people. It's so easy today to spread the gospel, and there's so many ways you can do it. And so we want to invite all of you to come join us in the online battlefield to wage peace.
That's a wonderful invitation, because I think a lot of people feel like, how can I contribute to that? I don't want to have a podcast. It seems daunting, but if you just like it, leave a positive comment, that helps the algorithm and it helps get positive messaging in the forefront of all the negativity. That's a great invitation. So thank you so much for joining me today. And thank you for what you're doing for a broader Christian community to help clarify difficult topics. You guys are amazing. Keep it up.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you,
appreciate you.
Alice.
Thanks for being here.
This is the What Now Podcast.